Like I said, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on what part of the globe you're calling in from. We see folks from all over the world on the call today, so quite an honor to be speaking with you. And we're talking about logic models. And, you know, the strict definition of a logic model, according to, you know, the federal government, the U.S. federal government, is a planning tool that clarifies and graphically displays what your project intends to do and what it hopes to accomplish and impact. And you see, you know, it summarizes your key program elements, explains rationale, it clarifies the intended outcomes, which is the intent of why you use a logic model. And having a visual display on how the organization accomplishes its mission is an effective way of aligning the organization. If they can see it, then they can understand it. And a lot of times just communicating in words and text leaves a lot of room for various interpretations and misunderstandings, especially in the global world we work in now. And so logic models, and we're going to talk about logic models and a very specific type of logic model called a strategy map. And I'll differentiate between those two and how they work. But I tend to use a very broad model of a logic model. There can be conceptual logic models that talk about how a concept works or explain something that you've seen. A lot of times you can see in PowerPoint, they've got little tools that are pre-programmed and that you can use. There's also process logic models of how a process works and what it's trying to do, especially some of the human factors logic and programs you're trying to do. And then there's program logic models that work to explain exactly what a program works from a large area. And if you're working with government agencies, or you're working with nonprofits, or you're working in some of the federal sectors and some of the others, they want you to have a logic model because it helps you actually define your theory of change and how you're going to accomplish what you're saying you're going to accomplish and what metrics actually apply and where they apply. So it helps your stakeholders, whether they're funders or managers or auditors, to evaluate the effectiveness of your programs, because we've had a lot of discussion about outputs versus outcomes. And so logic models kind of help you graphically depict the relationship between, in your system, what the resources are, your activities and processes that are going to be affecting those resources and transforming those resources into some value-added output, and then hopefully the outcomes that your product or your project or your process is going to achieve. And so this first one is the methodology that we use in any large transformation. This is something I use for all of the teams we work with, and how do you actually implement the concepts and get people aligned. This is a logic model, and it's based on patterns of behavior that we've seen in organizations as they mature and through the stages of development. And so with each stage, kind of think of a journey, has indicators that you can use to understand the needs of the individual, the needs of the organization, needs of the team, and help you see where your organization's at and kind of the progress. And this is a logic model, and it's a conceptual logic model of organizational growth. And when you first bring a group together, just imagine when you've been voluntold to go to a meeting and you don't know why you're there, your boss has sent you there, or you've signed up to go to something. You're not quite sure what the idea is or what you're going to get out of it. And you as an individual need to have a sense of trust. And if you have a sense of trust that it's going to be good for you, then you also want to know what the vision is, what's the outcome, what are we trying to accomplish here, big picture, and in some sense of how that's going to be moving forward before you'll move forward with it. And if you do those well as a project manager or as a supervisor or manager, then you can move your folks to a higher level of performance. You can start to focus their behaviors. You can start to focus their activities. And where you're focusing activities, individuals now understand conceptually what you're trying to accomplish, but they don't know how you're going to do it. And so focusing, you start to define the systems, start to create the processes, and you start to help people understand their individual roles and responsibilities. And you'll know you've formed well when you start to see the excitement and growing movement forward, and that people are excited and interested in engaging and showing up at the next meeting. Because if you have a meeting and then the next meeting nobody shows up, you probably realize that they probably were not that interested or didn't feel like it's going to be value added. as a applied behavioral economics, we take the assumption that every behavior is rewarding on some level, even dysfunctional behavior. And so if someone comes to a meeting and then doesn't come to any future meetings, you can pretty much guarantee that they didn't feel the first one was worth their time, and they're not going to invest any more time in it. So if you fail to form, the group's going to stumble. They're going to have false starts. There's going to have miscommunication. There's going to be people not sure what's going to happen. And if you stumble, you need to go back and pick up what you missed. Do they not understand the vision? Do they not trust that it's a good thing? They're not bought into the process. And then that'll get you to the level of focus again. It's kind of like building a house. Without a solid foundation, you can't move to the next level. Once you get them focused and they start to understand their roles and responsibilities, you'll start to see a transformation of where there's commitment, where you see the individuals actually becoming committed to the team. And they're moving from a group of individuals to a more of a functioning, cohesive group aligned towards a common outcome. If you don't get the commitment side of it, you don't focus people, you're going to, and there it is, there's a slight delay in my clicking versus my movement. You're going to fragment. People are going to scatter. Some are going to move forward. Some are going to, go off on different tangents. This group's doing this group's doing that, and this person's not even showing up. And if you fragment, you're going to have to go back here and refocus. And there you go. If you're fragmenting and you're seeing people scattering all over the place, you need to come back and refocus them. If you get commitment and people are now engaged, you can get a level of sustained performance where you're consistently achieving your goals, where you're consistently producing what you said, you're using your resources well, and your systems are starting to be very effectively in place. And if you don't get commitment, you're going to see variable performance. I don't say low performance, but it's variable because sometimes, and you can all imagine when you've been on a team, and not everybody was as invested in the team as you were, and not everybody was really working, but you didn't want the project to fail. So you put in all the extra time, and you stayed up 2 o'clock in the morning, you work weekends, you gave up going to your kids' soccer games, and you made that project work, but you can't sustain it forever. You can't run at that pace forever. And if you as a manager see that there's variable performance in your organization, the other stage, you can go right back to the previous stage, but you can't get to commitment directly. Commitment is a transformation that occurs at an emotional level. I can demand, or I can pay you for your hands and your work, but to actually get this level of commitment and buy-in, just like respect, it has to be earned. And you can't demand commitment. And so you need to go back and look at focusing or even forming and figure out what you've missed. And so if you're at sustained performance, you need to renew it. New people come on. Other people will want to be promoted or move or leave the team. And you're going to have to continually renew the team to keep it moving forward. If not, the team's going to level out. And so what I've just taken the last 3-4 minutes to explain, is a logic model of organizational development. And you can see that each stage logically progresses up from the next. And if you don't effectively navigate one stage, then you get kind of blown off course, and you have to go back and figure out how to intervene to change it. So we have graphically shown what the organization attempts to accomplish with its organizational development and maturity. It also is a very effective way to get your team to say, where are we now? What are we seeing? Are we stumbling? Do we see people fragmenting? Do we have variable performance? And it can help you analyze what's going on. And that's the whole idea of a logic model, and why I put this as the first example in our logic models, because it really helps you as a manager have a conversation to understand and kind of feel where you're at.